Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Property-Pxrn Stars, the premium property podcast with your host, David Lindley.
And I'm Matt Giggs.
And today, our star, our guest, is none other than Daniel Daggers, Mr. Super Prime himself. So we're delighted that Daniel's joined us on the podcast today, and we're going to get so much value out of him because Daniel has over £4 billion of sales underneath his belt, making him one of, if not the, most successful estate agents in the UK, if not the world, dare I say it. Experience in the UK market, the US market, the international market with high net worth and ultra high net worth clients as well. Not to mention the fact that he's got experience in the independent estate agency world, the corporate estate agency world, and now with DDRE under his own steam, under his own brand, with his own business as well. So he's got the full gamut of experience to draw on here today. To quote Daniel, there's depth and there's width.
And there's some girth. So anyway, hashtag Mr. Super Prime. So Daniel, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, gents.
The last time, we just said it as you walked in, the last time I met you was just as lockdown was kicking off. So I'll probably, if you're okay, can we start there?
February 2020 it would have been. Yeah.
I think it was Chiltern Firehouse.
It was Chiltern Firehouse. I think I bought as well.
You did actually.
Did I?
You did.
There you go. I always buy. It's like
But
one of those. It's one of those things.
Yeah, but you extended. You never met me. You didn't know. I was following you at the time. I was getting really interested in this marketplace and understanding the super prime and prime markets. And reached out to you, had a great lunch or brunch, and you shared some real wisdom. So thanks for that. Plus, you were at quite a critical point in your career. If you can just take us back to that moment and when you left Knight Frank and started your journey into DDRE. Give us a bit of a summary of the last sort of few years, because that's how long it's been now.
So 4 months prior to us meeting, so in November, I left KF under very unusual circumstances. You can Google it. I'm not proud of it, and it's not entirely accurate at all, to be honest. But I think after that, when lockdown came in, everyone started talking about what you can and can't believe in the press and so on and so on. When I met you, I was sort of open to sort of speaking to independent thinkers, people who haven't necessarily gone down the same route as me, and I'm very inquisitive and I like learning from others. So I thought, yeah, let's have a chat. Why not? You seem like a smart guy and you come from a different background, professional background.
Yeah.
So I thought, let's have a chat. So we did that, and I did that with quite a few people. Actually, the first person to reach out to me when I left was the head of Foxtons at the time, not the owner, but the MD, and had a really interesting chat with him as well. And so I go around meeting people, especially my clients, and ask sort of what I think is interesting questions so I can learn more. And then during that process, I was building, at the time, Daniel Daggers Real Estate, which I was going to modify and convert into a brokerage called DDRE Global, now known as DDRE Global. So everything's been a plan. I got interviewed recently by a very well-known journalist, and I've had it twice now. And they said, after having the interview with me, they've said, wow, you're very considered and a real strategic thinker. And I just thought, wow, this is amazing how people can follow my social media and see my career and think that I'm not that anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
Like
I was going to say that. That's
just
an
thought that was a bit
interesting
weird.
observation, yeah.
So that was the journey. And so just after meeting, going to lockdown, building the business from the dining table was super unusual, very difficult.
How scary was it though?
It wasn't
being where you
no,
were.
it wasn't scary. It wasn't scary because when you're in it, you have to do it.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't going to earn a living unless I was going to make money. I don't come from a wealthy family, so it was impossible for me to just sit there and go, oh yes, my property portfolio is going to look after me for the rest of my life. That's not going to happen. So it wasn't scary at all. It was more, okay, this is what I have to do. I've never done it before. Some of this is going to hurt, and some of this is going to be great. So
well, I've been following you for a little while, and I looked at your story the other day. I think it was recently actually. You put on there, I'm sat here reminiscing about the years I drove the corporate Knight Frank smart car to save money so I could afford to build a life I've wanted to have. And I wish I had social media, and this is a point we can leap onto in a bit. As a professional journey, would have been interesting to watch, mainly about how I dealt with sacrifice, setbacks, such as this one, remain consistent, interesting word, showed the naysayers, which is what we all have to do, that you should never back against the underdog. Ever, interesting, whatever you do, remain consistent with 100% dedication. It will come, trust me. And I sat there with you and I listened to what you were going to do. And what's really nice, and I haven't even said this to you, is watching you pull it off. You're there. You're not there, but you're in the midst of building this global brand, and you should be really proud. But what has been...
Thank you.
Well, I mean it as well. What has been... Because consistency is... Let's start with that. How important is consistency in this super prime market that you operate?
I don't think it's consistency that is related to super prime. I think that consistency, you'll find that anyone who's very successful, whatever they do, all my clients, they're super consistent.
Yeah.
And so they don't have those, or if they do have the moments of can't be bothered kind of thing, they get up and they do it anyway.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why I am so consistent is that I played football when I was a kid, and I think sports is a very good trainer for consistency.
Yeah.
The thing about sports is that you notice the difference pretty quickly. You know, if I go to the gym, you'll notice your physique will change after 4 or 6 weeks. Yeah, for me. And at work, particularly in the super prime sector, you don't notice those changes for months, if not years, which means that you have to be mentally very strong, physically fit, because there's a lot to do, but mentally very strong, and remain consistent.
That was something I was going to ask you about, actually, was that element of patience when it comes to this prime market as well, because it's probably not something that can be an overnight success or an overnight game. It's got to be... Talk to me about what that's looked like for you in terms of patience in the long game from a DDRE perspective, but also your whole career as well.
Yeah, it's my career. So really nice sort of statistical evidence as to how things work from a small independent selling. You know, I started selling £100,000 studio flats, and then gradually got higher in value and went into the prime markets when I went to Knight Frank, and then from Knight Frank went up to the super prime market, which is over £10 million, and now, you know, my average transaction is just shy of 20 million, and I'm doing this globally. When I was at Vickers and Company as a kid, when I started to get really good, I had about 15 to 20 deals going at any one time. And they'd be yellow folders on the side of my desk. And every now and again, when I felt like stroking my own ego, I would count the folders to see how many deals I've got going, okay? And I would check it, you know, every now and again. When I went to Knight Frank, I went very quickly in 2007, 2008 into a market where there was a lack of deals happening. Yeah, and so I was doing it took me 6 months to do the first deal. Okay, this was 2007, late 2007. It took me till middle of 2008 to do my first deal. In fact, the person I was on the phone to on the way here was that person, ironically, and from then on, I started to do lots more deals, and I was averaging at like 6 deals a year, 10 deals a year, 15 deals a year. Now, doing what I do, I'm probably maxed out around 10, 12, and I'm giving a lot of business to the people I work with. But it just shows you that your patience, the amount of time you have when you're not in the thick of doing a deal, it can be very long. I'll do 3 months without transacting, and then all of a sudden I'll do £100 million worth of deals. Yeah, and you need a lot of maturity.
There's a real spotlight on the super prime market across the world.
Sure.
I mean, shows like Selling Sunset, Sydney, different places.
Yeah.
You can see all of the glitz and the glamour, and what you probably don't hear, and what perhaps you were just sharing there and shedding a little bit of a light on, is 95% of the time, there are a lot of things that you have to pick up and run with, and that's being resilient around the way you operate. How important is that as part of the sector that you're in?
I think you fail 70% of the time.
Elaborate.
Well, I don't do a deal on every viewing.
No.
I don't do a deal with every buyer. Yeah. Thankfully, I'm at a place in my career where I don't work for free. Yeah. If you want my advice, you pay for it. And that takes a lot of time to get the credibility in the market and let it seep through the market so people know, your network needs to know. But I would say during the course of my career, I failed so much that I've learned so much that my failure just gets mitigated. It gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller because you learn so much. And a lot of people are trying to teach my team this and trying to coach my team into this whole having a very thick skin about failure and rather having an emotional reaction to it. Try to understand it. Rather than embrace it, try to understand why. What's the reason that happened? And then what you do is you plug it into the back of your brain. And the next time you come into this moment, in a year's time or 5 years' time, it triggers you. And it says, I've been here before. I know what's going to happen. You know, it's very valuable.
You're talking emotional intelligence to a degree in terms of picking up the awareness.
Being self-aware.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I remember this moment. I know how I felt at this moment. This is what I needed to do to achieve the goal. This is what I need to do to achieve the goal that I want. And I can't do that because I know the end result of that moment.
How do you bring in your agents now? I mean, what's your process? Because I've watched, and is it through the network?
We don't.
I was going to say.
We don't go out advertising, hello, and we don't have a recruitment consultant looking for us. It's people that are attracted to us.
Yeah.
And then they need to have a level of expertise.
Yeah.
And those expertise that I'm interested in are communication skills.
Okay.
Someone who could communicate in person very well, someone who can communicate on camera very well, someone who's not scared to have conversation with people. If you speak multiple languages, that's great, and you need to have a level of expertise and some track record. Yeah. And once the business is bigger, you know, we'll have a coaching element to the side of the business, and I'll teach things that I've never been taught before, and I had to learn out of failure.
Yeah. I know you've probably got another question, but I'm just in the moment here. So your growth's really important.
Pardon?
Right? Your growth in terms of your learnings, more learnings to bring those people with you. Because
sure.
I suspect at the moment, having your own team like that, you did have a team at Knight Frank.
Correct. Yeah, so, I ran the private office for a little while. Yeah.
So is it kind of carrying over that into your own group as such, with your own values and standards?
Yeah. I mean, how do I put this? Like, my values is that you see what you get. Yeah, I'm super transparent about how I feel about relationships with people. I'll say it. Yeah. And you won't get two sides of me. So I'm the same guy that the guy that you see now, that you're speaking to now, whose accent's quite polished. Yeah, it wasn't always quite polished. But if I go and play football under the Westway, I'm the exact same person. Yeah. So there's that. Which I don't think you get in our industry. I think people fake it to make it in many instances, to be part of the crew and part of the team, part of the company, you know, you look the part and so on and so on. Integrity, determination, and going probably one step further than everyone else.
So just taking the conversation back a step, because there'll probably be people that are listening to this that want to move up the ladder in terms of going from the residential to the premium to the prime, or prime to the super prime market, let's just say. If you were starting again, say, wanting to go on that journey, and I suppose that's a sort of intermediate question, is it a journey like that? Is it possible just to go straight into the super prime, or you have to climb the mountain?
I think it's more possible today than it was when I started.
Why is that?
Well, because you can create content today. You can create content, you can speak to the public. You see, I was a council estate kid up until 11 years old, and then things got a little bit easier for my family. But I had to work at grassroots. So my network was tiny. I couldn't leverage off mum and dad, and they'll give me properties to sell or rent, and then their friends and their friends. It didn't work that way. I had to prove my value first. So you have to, that's how you upscaled, right? And then my move from the small independent to a big firm was that I felt I could do more. It was a better platform for me. I now, you know, you're seeing a group of the top performers leave the big organizations to find platform businesses to go build their businesses from, because they feel there's more opportunity there. You guys know this because you're building your own business. So previously you'd have to climb the ranks to earn the skills so that people found out who you were. And if you were at a big firm, more people would find out who you were, and you had the stamp of approval for big firm, and I'm a partner. I think those days are going, and they are, the value is dissipating because the agent now is able to advertise to the customer. And so previously you wouldn't have the ability to speak to a billionaire or multimillionaire in person, or send a flyer that easily, and people would consume it and go, oh yes, I really want to speak to them. But today you can produce a beautiful piece of content, and it could hit somebody, and they could say, yeah, I would love to do business with you, Remy, who works in our business. And she might go off and do a deal. She's just met a billionaire recently who really likes her. Yeah. Thinks she's excellent.
So that's really interesting. So the question that I wanted to ask before that, if you like, was, so today, let's just imagine you were starting today. What would your strategy be to get as high as you can in the marketplace? If you were starting DDRE today from a cold start, what would you do? And almost how would that be different?
Well, I wouldn't be starting DDRE as a cold start. I'd be working, I think that would be a mistake. you have to find the best person in the best company in the neighborhood that you know. This would be the best route for me, okay? And I would go there and I'd stick myself next to Matt and I would do absolutely everything for Matt. Oh, you want a cup of coffee? I know you like one sweetener in there. That's brilliant. I'll have it for you at 9 a.m., no problem. And this is the newspaper you read. Okay, granted, you might not read newspapers anymore, but you get the gist.
Yeah.
I would do absolutely everything for Matt. And the reason why I would do that is I'm going to learn 3 times faster if I'm with someone who's in the industry and knows the industry better than his colleagues. Could be Sally, could be whoever it is, right? Ahmed, doesn't really matter. You find the best person, the best agent. And then you look at that agent, you go, okay, what are the attributes this person has? I need to mimic them and duplicate that. And what are their weaknesses? Because you have to recognize that everyone has weaknesses. Even I do. I won't tell you what they are, but I do. So, chocolate. So then I would do that and I pin myself to that person. And if I was offered enough value, Matt would then start opening his address book to me. Oh, go and do that for me, go and do that for me. And all those people I'd save in my mobile phone and their email addresses. And one day, if I decided to leave, and go to the Bahamas, I take those people with me and I onboard them onto my social channels. So that's the first thing that I would do. And the reason why I would choose my own neighborhood is that that's the only place someone new in the industry can really offer any value. I worked in a neighborhood that I knew relatively well, but I knew nothing. But what I could do is say, go and speak to Sally, who's the chiropractor, go and speak to the doctor around the corner. That's the best part to play football. Oh, your kids, okay, Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock, they have a kids club to play football. And so what happens is you start adding value by saving time for your customer and offering value where agents who aren't local can't necessarily offer. And that's why I would compound the two. And then from there, I'd probably go and work in another business because I'd have my levels of expertise. I'd go and work in a business, one of the big corporates. I'll learn professionalism because that's where you learn some professionalism and your language improves. You understand more things. There's more people around you. And I would work in a more expensive neighborhood. Once I do that for a couple of years, if you have the patience, once I do that for a couple of years or 5 years, whatever it may be, understand the likelihood of you becoming an equity partner of that business or the big dog in that business is very limited. So you have to be very honest with yourself about what you feel you can achieve in these places. And then you go, I'm going to work there for 5 years and either I'm going to be a big dog there or I'm going to set up my own business with all the people that I've onboarded.
Start with the end in mind, almost. Like get an idea of what you're trying to achieve.
Well, you are your own business now.
Right, you are.
Right,
There's
so
personal and business brand.
No, I don't think there is. There's just your brand, right? The days where you have a separate brand, where you dress up like this, and then go home and put a baseball cap on and start speaking like a rude boy,
authentic.
Doesn't work anymore, right? It doesn't work anymore. You cannot. It's symbiotic, right? Your two lives are symbiotic, so you have to remain consistent in who you are. And the only way you can do that is by being yourself. And because you have a route to advertise, you are now the advertiser. You're now the workhorse, the relationship builder and the executor of business. So you are a full stack business.
I think that's such a great point. It's a moment of gold there because there's a lot of people that feel like they have to appear and put on the play and the act when they step into any of the agency levels, if you like. And actually it's completely wrong. Authenticity is what people connect to. And you'll bring the right people with you when you are who you are.
Can I ask a question related to that actually? It's a really good point. Is I suppose there's two sides to this. How much does confidence play a role in the markets that you operate in? And then I suppose the other side of that coin is how much does imposter syndrome ever kind of seep in? Does that go away over time? How would you get around that? Because it can be quite intimidating. Customers maybe, the properties are on another level. How do you balance those emotionally?
Imposter syndrome is something that I have suffered with. Do I really deserve to be here? Right? But the fact that you're there means that you deserve to be there. So that's one thing. The other thing, confidence is frightfully important. And you have to have inner confidence. I'm lucky my mum did that. My mum put me in positions of stress when I was a kid, unknowingly, or maybe knowingly. Oh, well, like when you're the only Jewish boy in the neighborhood and all the other kids want to beat you up, right? And you come running home because you know a kid called Mohammed wants to beat you up and have a fight with you, right? Because we used to play on the street. It was skateboards and footballs. I mean, that was it. I ran home one day and I said to my mum, my mum said, what are you doing here? It was a Sunday afternoon. She said, what are you doing here? And my mum's Israeli. She's a tough cookie. And I said, well, Mohammed wants to have a fight with me. I don't want to fight him. My mum said, well, you're not coming in until you've had a fight with him. So I went out and had a fight with him. Now that has prepared me for life, right? So I have this sort of I'm prepared to fight. Yeah. So confidence is a place you either have it or you earn it. And the way by earning confidence is by learning from your mistakes. Because the more that you learn, the more powerful you feel you will be. Yeah. And that is very important. So I want my people to be super confident because they know more.
Yeah.
Not because they're just...
Not because it's an act.
Not because it's an act.
Yeah.
No. I feel very powerful if I go around saying, if people ask me if I'm good at what I do, I don't say I'm good. I say I'm incredible at what I do. You're lucky to have me involved. Right. Why? Well, I have so many years of experience now. Yeah. And I've done things that no one else has knowledge of. So I'm a big, a really useful tool for you if you want to succeed in doing whatever it is you want to do. And that means that carries with me when I go to different neighborhoods around the world, different cities.
I was actually going to ask you about that. It's a perfect segue. How do you see geography now? And that might be a weird thing to say, but the world is more globalized than it ever has been before, and with social media and the way people interact now, can you be, and almost in contrast to what we were talking about earlier, there's a neighborhood and then there's the entire planet of premium prime, super prime real estate. Do you have to make a choice? If you were approached by someone in just Sydney, Daniel, I want to sell this amazing property in Sydney, are you going to go, I can't do anything for you, I'll set you up with someone, or actually, yes, you can work through me, through the brand, and we'll find someone? How do you manage geography?
Yeah, people haven't recognized the opportunity yet and have built towards it. That's something that we're doing in our business, okay, with a separate business that we're building, right? In theory, when you have a social following, that social following is no longer like your office. Your office would have a following, like a group of people that come and visit you, and it would be a kilometre radius.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah, just in case.
Does it sound okay?
Yeah. So it'd be like a kilometre radius, right? That's where your influence would lie, okay? And then if people decide to get in the car and come to your office because you were that compelling to see, then all of a sudden it would be 5 kilometre radius. Now, because you have the opportunity to create content, you don't have a radius that restricts you. Right? So your customer is anywhere around the world. So I have people that follow me from Sydney. Would they be interested in a property that I'm marketing in Sydney? Yes, of course they would. So that being said, everybody can sell everything.
Yeah.
Right? And so where's the platform there?
Yeah.
In the US, you have something called the MLS, which enables you to do that to a certain extent. But there should be a global one, which is what we're building.
Well, it's that collaboration piece as well, because I think one of the things, you're obviously taking charge of that global aspect, which is fantastic. Your example of Remy just putting themselves out there with content and connecting with a particular buyer, that connection can be made quite quickly now.
Yeah.
And that
because they get an insight as to who you are, not
it.
who you propose to be by wearing a suit.
100%.
Yeah.
Go on, you go.
I feel that the super prime markets certainly are being littered with, you should get into this market because you're going to earn fortunes. When I'm not sure that's completely the case. I don't know because I'm not in it day to day. Yet it feels to me the more successful you are in that market, it's because of your network. It's how you network. It's how you operate with people. And one of the examples you gave earlier was how you build that connection with people and help give, be a part of someone's life. And I think that is like the concierge-y kind of attitude to have with regards to helping people. And I think, is there a distinction that you make between what you give in terms of value, in terms of what you get in return? Because I think that's where perhaps people are attacking the market. I want to get fees, I want to earn fortunes. And actually, the real market is when you give lots of value and assistance, advice, help, support.
Well, in today's world, you don't know who you're going to meet over digital channels or in person. So you have to show value and show a level of expertise. There's one thing that I think there is a tier. I think there is a tier of people where they're just grinding out results. They're KPI'd, and it's like I do 1,000 I make 1,000 phone calls, do 100 viewings, get 10 offers, do 1 deal.
Yeah.
Okay, that doesn't work in the super prime sector because people don't want to be just a number, right? They want you to understand what they're looking for precisely, and then use the smallest amount of time possible to enable them to find it. Okay, so it can't be numbers game. It can't be a numbers game. So that's one thing. The other thing is that you have this concierge. Everyone's gone from being an agent to being like a concierge and doing more for their clients. Yes, I'm helping for a role for a global house manager right now for a client of mine. Yeah, am I the best person for that? No, but do I know the best person for that? Yes. So now what you do is you plug into my network, which is all top class people. Yeah, everywhere, in every kind of sector and industry. But then there is a level above that, and the level above that is where I don't talk about business. Mm-hmm. I never talk about business with some of my clients. I'll go on, and my team will come with me, I'll go on pitches to meet people. I don't even discuss real estate. Yeah, so that might sound really
it's an insight.
Ridiculous, but it's true. And I'll talk more about sort of geopolitical issues which might affect real estate. Yeah, and I'm definitely not the smartest guy on the planet, right? Nowhere near. I definitely wasn't the smartest guy in my previous business, but I was the top fee earner, right? I had the best relationships. I was doing something right, or I'm doing something right. And a lot of it is just having a better understanding as to what's going on, and then being able to regurgitate it in a way that is simple and accurate, and how it reflects on real estate.
Makes sense. A somewhat tactical question, I suppose, but to talk about valuing, not values, but actually the value of property.
Yeah.
I mean, that must be a whole new ballgame once we reach certain price thresholds. We can't exactly jump on Rightmove and look at some comparables. But how do you, not how do you value, but how do you manage the valuation process with those customers and setting their expectations when we get to these astronomical price ranges, and how do you go about that?
So it's not astronomical price ranges.
I suppose it's relative, right?
For them, it's the price.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And we get hooked up on the amount of zeros. I made a very funny mistake. I mean, it's funny now. At the time, I was devastated. But when I joined Knight Frank, there was a property we were selling for £14 million. And I remember speaking to the owner about something and saying 1.4 million because I didn't understand the amount of zeros. Yeah. I mean, like, I was 27 and 10 years in, but I hadn't dealt with those numbers, so they were foreign to me. So you start having to live, I live a very normal life. Yeah, okay, great, I've got access to some incredible things and I've done some amazing, really amazing things that I'll write about one day. But it's normal for my clients. So I have to speak their language. The other thing is that this isn't put something online and then it sells in a week's time. So you have to explain to your clients that this isn't, and I use this term, it's not a sprint. And it may not be a medium distance race. It may be a marathon. And therefore you're going to get to know me very well. And you need to feel very comfortable that I have the physical attributes, which is what I discussed earlier, and the patience to deliver the best result at the right time. So there's that. And the other thing is that there's never one price. Anyone who gives an opinion of value and it's one price is getting it unbelievably wrong.
Yeah.
So there's always two prices. There's what you could potentially achieve as your guide price. What's the worst case scenario? And you will find yourself somewhere in between, depending on how good I am, how good the business is, how good our marketing is, how good the market is, and the person's motive for buying.
Yeah.
So there's loads of nuances.
Makes sense. And just to backtrack on something else, as a complete change of topic, the MLS type system that you're building, is that something you can talk to us about, or is this?
Yeah, I think that we're going to have a total transformation in our industry.
I was going to ask you about AI. So does this link into that somehow?
Yes. I think our future is benchmarked on how well we perform in front of camera, how well we perform with people, and how we create trust and really positive relationships amongst people. I think if you sit behind your computer or your phone and you just WhatsApp and email, without creating a relationship, AI can take that role from you. Now, it doesn't take that role from you independently. What happens is it enables the people who do create amazing relationships, who do have a loud voice, to do more business, right? So you won't necessarily work for an organization. You may work for an individual who has a team of 50 people because they can do so much more. So AI is going to do that. I think AI will also help people find properties quicker, but I'm not going to give the game away necessarily. I don't think people realize yet that companies are practically, unless they're adding value to the person, to the agent, to the person who's delivering the service, they could become redundant because companies was a store of value. And they had store of information. and they have all the information. But in today's world, we have a lot of freedom of information, and everyone's got that information. The storing of it is less valuable. It's now about who is delivering the information. And I believe that everyone is an advertising tool, and an MLS will be benchmarked or enabled by people, because people are the most important factor in our industry.
Well, we often, you probably experience this, people who like to come into the industry saying how much they love interior design or they love property. You're like, don't get into it, because this has got nothing to do with that.
It's got nothing to do with that. It really doesn't.
No, but it's the perception, isn't it? Especially with that. But there's an interesting point you make. And I think one of the things where I kind of go back to when I began an agency 28 years ago, a lot of the sales I made were through relationships, in terms of understanding the process of talking to people on a regular basis, albeit it was some kind of rudimentary, you've got to ring your applicants every week, that kind of thing in the corporate world. But it did teach you a lot of skills around.
I think that's important though.
100%. But it taught me to really understand how to have those conversations at the rawest level, and then to develop the skills around understanding needs and matching those things up. And I think with the likes of Rightmove and different portals that have come into the game in the last sort of 20 years, some of those skills have kind of been downgraded, if you like. But I think with the introduction of AI, I think those people who have got that ability to connect on energy and connect in a way where they become memorable on camera is obviously quite an important factor. I think AI is going to massively leverage those people now. And I think that the danger for the industry is, like you said, if you're an information sharer, what is going to happen to you? So where is the industry going, in your opinion, in that area? How sharp are we there now? Are we?
No, we're a million miles behind. Like the UK is a million miles behind. We lack invention, and we push invention back.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
I also think the industry is run by big corporations that don't want change. We have to recognise that. But really, the market doesn't care what the organisations think, right? The market cares what it cares. Buyers want to find property as quickly as possible. Sellers want to sell quickly as possible. You have to work towards the customer now, which is a Jeff Bezos thing, right? Yeah. So I think we'll see total overhaul. We're seeing it now. People will fail. We will choose not to recognise it, but I know big organisations and small organisations are recognising it. You guys are. People are yet to step into their power. I think when people really understand how powerful they can be, the industry will move rapidly forward. I'm a little nervous that we, again, won't lead the charge. Yeah. Although I think the business that we're building called ADVSR.ai could help us do that. But this business is about people and psychology.
Yeah, massively.
Yeah, and it's the people who understand people that will be very successful.
That's what excites me. Obviously, it's trepidation, because you're always thinking to yourself, what and where is it going to take over to a degree where you're unencumbered? You're not needed. There's nothing for you to do.
Well, that's in your control, though, isn't it?
I believe so.
You have to add value. You have to appreciate your skill sets.
It comes back to those little things that you mentioned earlier. It's about getting into your customers and their awareness and your needs, and how you can help people move from A to B to C. And I just think people have grown used to not having to do that in our industry.
That's very dangerous. That's
a bad habit.
Well, let's put it into a different perspective, right? Let's say a business, let's say a big organisation that has thousands of employees who are agents, and those agents are just run on KPIs. Every business is and this is like maybe a bit obscure, but every business is an information sharing business. Mm-hmm. Every business, right? You go onto Amazon, you put a piece of information there, it gives you a piece of information back, it sends you the information, you give them information, which is your credit card details and so on, and then you click yes, and that piece of information, whatever it is you were buying, the size and length and material and whatever it did, gets sent to you, which is your address and a piece of information. Estate agents the exact same game, okay? Real estate, exact same game. Here's the property, this is the size, this is when it was built, this is the lease length, this is the freehold, this is the garden, all of that sort of stuff. Here are the numbers. It's a piece of information, okay? An agent's role is to deliver that piece of information to the person who's going to consume it and want to buy it. If you don't do that with a personal reasoning behind it, and character and enthusiasm and all that sort of stuff, what happens is an AI bot can take the information. It doesn't need a holiday. It doesn't feel sick. It doesn't feel tired in the morning. It doesn't need a day off. It doesn't need any of that sort of stuff. It can take that information, deliver it to buyers at a far cheaper cost and less aggravation. So an individual has to add so much more value to the equation. Otherwise, the efficiency and the low cost of having AI technology do that role for the business will outweigh what you can deliver. So an agent has to really be very strong over digital channels, be able to communicate to as many people as possible over digital channels, via email, via iMessage, via WeChat, speak to camera, do whatever is necessary to add value to the equation.
Because it's know, like, trust. There's that element where people, with that example you gave earlier, Remy, and that's how quickly you can connect with someone. And it's that then continuation of value that you provide.
But if everybody can do 100%, but think about it this way, if everyone can do and sell everything, people's choice won't be what to buy. It'll be who do I buy through?
Yeah.
So it might be because I give 70% of my income to charity. I'm not saying I do. I'd like to get to that point one day.
Yeah.
Or Remy is part of her local community. Or Benji goes to the local synagogue. Or Alex is Greek Cypriot. We've got loads of diversity in our team, which is what I wanted. There'll be other reasons why people will choose to do business with people.
Yeah.
So maybe a kind of segue from that previous topic, but talk to me about off-market and how you manage that, because I've been on your website, looked at your listings, and what proportion would you say are listed on there as off-market?
50-50.
And that's a much higher ratio of off-market than would be in your normal residential market, and I suppose that increases as you go up.
Maybe, but I think that people know the game now. Buyers know the game. If you've been looking for a little while, buyers know the game. And the game is, hello, Mr. Smith. This property is coming available. No one knows about it yet. It hasn't hit the websites. Would you like to come and see it? Mr. Smith has had 1,000 phone calls from estate agents like that. Like, everyone knows there's a market before the market becomes visible. Okay? I think there's 3 tiers to our market. I think there's the white market, which is out there, Rightmove, Zoopla, on the market, so on and so on. Then there's the grey market. The grey market is social media because there's no search function there necessarily. And then there's the black market. It's the wrong thing to describe it, right? But there's the black market, which is totally off market, and you need to know me or someone within my ecosystem of professionals that I trust for you to receive that information. I think there's 3 tiers to our market. And I've had heads of banks ask me, how can this be off market if it's on social media? And I'll say, search for it.
Yeah.
And he can't.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing, is that off-market is a pretty broad spectrum, isn't it? But I like the way you've categorized it into those 3 areas.
Well, we've thought about it a lot.
Yeah.
We thought about it a lot. We sold a property for over £16 million, where we had over 250,000 impressions. And if you try to find that property now, you won't be able to. We are light years ahead of where the majority of the industry is.
Maybe this is a really hard question to answer, but what proportion of your business is done through social media rather than your traditional channels? And I mean that in terms of the buyers finding the property and the sellers finding you.
We generated over £1 million in fees last year from social media.
Yes, astonishing. And is that through everyone in your team that is collaborating, or is that just your channels?
No, that was just me. There's more coming from other people.
Yeah.
Because the way we market properties, and I'm not sure people really have seen how we do it necessarily, but there is a special way in how we are achieving brand awareness, personal brand, and then deliverability of information to people's audiences from the person they're expecting to receive that information from.
Talk to me about that. How
well,
does that work?
let's say you've got a social channel and you're an estate agent.
Yeah.
All you're following, your 5,000, 10,000, 50,000, 1 million people aren't expecting to see me on your social media account saying, hey, welcome to this wonderful home. They don't want to see me. They're not following you to see me. They're following you to see you. And your interpretation of things, and your feeling towards things, and how you do things.
So it's people buying people rather than just a
100%.
never-ending shelf.
And it's going to get stronger and stronger and stronger.
And I suppose, come back to your point, that's sort of the antidote to the AI threat, isn't it?
I think it's
put the people
weird. It's weird. It's
Yes.
kind of reminding me of the earlier years and age when it's all about your personality and how you can perform with
Well,
people.
you'll know
build that
this, Matt.
trust.
Like the best agent in a neighbourhood, because it was so localised before the internet, was the agent who walked down the high street and everyone said hello to the agent. So when I go onto LinkedIn, I see other professionals in my sector talk about, oh, people don't want estate agents to be the centre of the show. I'm like, excuse me? It's like the best agents that I've ever worked with walked down the local high street and everyone knew who they were.
I've camped out in a coffee house for about 5 years in the high street. I'm not based in the high street. It's nearly 3 miles from the high street. And we've grown and grown and grown because you're constantly in the eyesight of your consumer. You smile, you're there. And the next thing you know, they see you on.
Well, at night, Frank, I used to say to everyone, I didn't run the office, but how would I put it? I coached the office. And I said to everybody, eat out on the high street.
Yeah.
I don't care if you take your packed lunch to the high street, eat out on the high street, because your customers aren't coming into the office.
But that's interesting now, isn't it? If you could do that as well as being more visible in the social channels that we're talking about, the power of that is just...
Well, the company's not delivering that.
No.
Yeah.
The person is.
Yeah.
And this is what people are starting to come to terms with, and why companies are finding it very difficult to manage the social presence of its staff, because how do you manage that? And it changes business models.
Actually, almost at the end, one last question that I think I know the answer to anyway. High street offices?
Well, you can give me two things. High street office at £100,000 a year rent and looking after it and so on, or a person with 100,000 followers. I take the person with 100,000 followers all day long.
I had a feeling you might say something like that. Yeah.
And if you
As long as they're not acquired,
if you
they're
could
not
take
bought.
a chunk of that investment on the high street premises and inject it into what you can do to take that property to the right audience.
Sure.
Yeah, like paid media, although I'm very, very, I don't believe in paid media as much as I did 5 years ago when I started to do a bit paid. I think that people want information delivered to them by people they trust, like, and respect. And that doesn't mean me doing a paid media marketing campaign to groups of people to buy real estate through me, because I'm a stranger.
Can I ask, I've got one last question, I think, because you've transformed yourself from being in to working on your business more, probably so. Tell me what you enjoy the most about what you do right now.
Moments.
Okay.
Enjoy moments.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy everything.
No, it's not possible.
I think the days where people are like, oh, if you meditate in the morning and you eat the right food and you work at this tempo, then everything will be fine. I think that was just a lost cause.
Yeah.
I think you have to recognize that happiness is moments. Yeah. And so you want to do as many things that give you happy moments as you possibly can. But building a business isn't necessarily a happy moment. Building a business is really hard. And so my happiest moments are when I see other people in the team do deals that they never thought they could do, which is great. Or win people's trust, earn people's trust. I love that, because that's how I built my career. And watching the business grow is nice, albeit you don't really have time. When you're pedaling on the wheels, you don't really have time to look back and go, oh, look how far I've come.
It's one of those things you rarely do, is take a step back.
No, I don't think I have ever. And people say that's so bad. But then again, they're envious of the position we find ourselves in. So am I doing something wrong? I don't know. I'm certainly not perfect.
No one is.
They talk about when you're climbing the mountain, taking a moment to turn around and admire the view, don't they? But speaking of moments, we have a closing tradition on our podcast that will certainly give you a moment.
Go on.
So the podcast is called Property Porn Stars. The stars are the guests that we bring on, but we've got to link back to our subject matter here. Everyone has a porn star name, whether they know it or not.
Oh, no, wait, I have one. I don't. This is one of them. No, my name is one.
No,
if everyone could come prepared,
that could be
great.
That could be, actually, yeah, 100%.
Go on, hit us.
No, my porn star name
Daniel
is my
Daggers,
name. My
there
name.
you
Come on. Can I tell you something? The amount of times I've been stood in a lift with clients that I've just met, particularly at head office, right, where they meet this guy who's suited up and everything. I was like, "Hi, Daniel, pleasure to meet you." And at the end of the meeting, like, I'll give my business card and we'll walk towards the lift and get in the lift. And I'll go, "Daniel, wow," and they said, "I know. Could have been a porn star, shouldn't I?"
It's the reason why you are first guest,
exactly right. Exactly right.
I think we'll leave it.
Off,
We'll
off
leave it
with,
to be
by the
honest
way,
with you.
off with a bang.
Absolutely, 100%.
There we go.
Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Giving
Thanks
up
for the
some of
invite.
your valuable time. It's been a great. It's been a great hour. I'd say we've got to be nearly an hour.
Yeah, I feel like we've wrung you dry for information,
Yeah.
Daniel.
No,
Really
it's good.
appreciate it
Really
and appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Thanks,
Thanks
Ben.
so much.